Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Spiritual Journey podcast. My name is Nimesh and I'm your host. I always love starting every episode by saying thank you. I feel so blessed with this podcast, the people it impacts, the people it reaches. When I started, my intention was to guide people on their journey, to hold your space as you go through a shift. And it really was a passion project. I had no idea that I was going to end up recording over 300 episodes and for it to grow as much as it has. So I feel so blessed. If the messages we receive on a weekly basis, thank you. Let us know if you're what value you get from it, any messages you get. We love getting those messages. If you're a regular listener, welcome back. If you're new to this podcast, welcome. You can let us know if you have any feedback. Our intention is really to share whatever wisdom we can to guide you on your journey. It's always channeled, nothing scripted, nothing is edited. So whatever comes through, comes through. I am an Akashic record reader, Akashic trainer, podcast host, podcast creator, as well as a spiritual coach and mentor. And I love what I get to do. I get to hold people's space while they go through a shift, while truly understanding your soul's purpose, kind of what you've contracted in this lifetime, the souls in your world, the soul contracts you have. If you want a deeper understanding of who you are, then reach out. I feel like a lot of people are going through some kind of awakening right now. And I love what I get to do. So if my voice resonates, book a free discovery call. I do also now have a membership where there's a monthly call. I give you kind of energy updates in terms of current energy. It really is an opportunity to join a conscious community where you get more direct feedback from me and what that looks like. So links in the show notes. So the beauty of this podcast, it wouldn't be where it is today without my beautiful co-host introducing the amazing, the stunning, the healer extraordinaire and published author, Stacey Brown. Stacey, I've got to do it again. So over to you.
Hi, friends. It's so good to be back. We're really passionate about this podcast, and it's always amazing to connect with those of you, our listening audience. Shortly before recording this, I had a call with one of our listeners, and it reminded me again of the power of this podcast. So thank you for being here. And if it's your first time, welcome. My name is Stacey. I'm an intuitive. I do readings for people from around the world. I'm also an Akashic record reader and a spiritual coach and mentor. And my absolute passion is helping people on their journey to healing. And like Nim said, we get to do that through a beautiful mentorship program that we channeled. And it's something that has helped so many people on their journey to healing, to help you to understand more about why you are the way you are and how you can lead a life that you can be proud of. So if this is something that interests you, reach out to us. I also want to let you know that right now you can book a 30-minute reading with me for just $44. If you're interested in spending some time with me, especially right now as we're getting ready to head into a new year, this is the perfect time to find out a little bit more about your journey and gain clarity as we head into a new season. You can go to my website, stacey-brown.com, to book a session. I'm really looking forward to this episode today, Nims. How are you doing?
I'm good. Recording this podcast is one of my favorite things to do. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to jump into the topic. So we would say that the topics we pick are we don't pick in advance. It's whatever we feel energetically is needed by the collective. So, and we don't script anything. So today's episode, and I really do feel like all of us being pushed to do this right now, is around being seen. And how being seen is a soul lesson. A lot of people say, oh, now's the time you need to be seen. This is the time. And 100% I believe that. But I also believe that it's more of a soul journey than a personal preference. And that's what we're going to dive deeper in today. I feel like, when we come into this world, we really come in for lots of reasons, but three main reasons from a spiritual perspective. One is to release karma, personal ancestral karma. Two is, our soul needs to expand in certain ways. And, that's why we go. That's why this lifetime, I feel, has been so intense for all of us. But the third thing is to take those things from 1 and 2 and use it in some kind of way in whatever this next phase of what the planet's going through is. And that's why I feel like a lot of us are being pushed to be seen. And it's part of our destiny, it's part of our soul. And what does being seen really mean? It doesn't mean that you need to be, it doesn't always mean you need to be seen by millions. Sometimes this is being seen by one person. But it's that intention of not hiding. It's the intention of truly shining your light and not focusing on the number of people that see it, but you're doing it for you because it's a soul initiation. It's something that you're here to do. I feel like with the shift that we're going through is shifting from divine masculine to divine feminine, and it's like we're moving into a phase which is all about the heart rather than the head, instead of the ego, and it's also about communities. So being seen, speaking your truth, it's time for us to stop hiding. The phase that we've just been in for the last few years has been it's been intense. It's been we're closing our cycles so quickly, and I feel like we're entering into a phase which is more about community. So yeah, this last phase has been very lonely. It has been, in many ways, we've been hiding in the shadows. But I feel like the energy that we're moving into is more to be seen, more heart-led, more on the divine feminine side. And by the way, I'm going to dive so much deeper into this into my membership, where I'll go kind of really deeper into the current energy. But it is a time, it's like we got so many clues. This year we entered into a 9-year, which is all about completion. What I mean by 9 years, when you add up the year, 2025 into a single digit, it becomes a 9. Also the year of the snake, according to, so the snake's all about shedding layers and all that. So we had some clues about how intense this year is going to be. But, next year's a 1 year or 10-year, depends on, but all that, 1 is really about new beginnings, 10 is about creativity. So we're entering into a phase where we're being called, we're being pushed to be seen. Everyone can feel a shift. And I do feel that, which is why we picked this topic as we're getting close to the end of December. And timing and calendar years and all that is more of a human thing. But generally, we feel like we're being pushed to be seen, to be heard, to stop hiding. Yes, we're always going to have healing to do. So often we say, what, when I finish this phase, or when I get fully healed, who's really fully healed, right? It's a lifetime journey. So, and what if your healing comes by you shining your light? And, so many of us have been through so much. And what if us shining our light, sharing our truth helps one person? What if nobody's ahead of any of that, but what if it's perceived that we're a little bit ahead, so we can put our hand up and just be the bridge, be the light for others? That's why we felt this topic was really important. It's to me, it's like humanly, yeah, we always say, it's time to be seen, it's time to be heard, it's time to speak your truth. For me, what's happening right now in terms of being seen, it's more of a soul initiation. It's more of our destiny, more of our purpose to stop hiding in the shadows and to be truly seen. Stace, actually, you started this conversation about being seen. It kind of came from a conversation I had with you. So where did this topic come from for you, and what does it mean?
I was just thinking about how challenging it can be to be vulnerable. And I've been having the conversation with a lot of clients and friends recently who have felt prompted to share part of their journey in some way, who have had to open up and be vulnerable. And the question has been like, why? Why do I have to do this? Why do I feel like I'm being called to do this? And I can just relate so much to that thought, that the conversation really struck me. For me, I had always been, active in my community and trying to give back. And working as a hairdresser, you get to know a lot of people in the community, and your name gets out there. And I felt like I had a reasonable amount of visibility in my community. But then 6 years ago, I had a significant trauma with my son, and I went into a bubble. and I was hiding, trying to survive, really, and trying to help my son. And there came a period of time after everything happened with him where I knew very clearly that God had given my family a story that was not meant to be hidden, it was meant to be shared. And though I didn't feel called to share for my entire family, I felt called to share how it had impacted me and what lessons I had learned from it. And from that space, this kind of snowball effect happened where I started sharing my voice, with friends and people who lived locally. And then I got on a social media app called Clubhouse, and I started sharing publicly with people from all different parts of the world. And now, fast forward, I'm on a weekly podcast sharing vulnerably about my journey and the lessons that I'm learning along the way. And it just got me thinking about how uncomfortable it can be when you feel like you're being called to share with anybody. And like Nimesh was saying, it might not be a global audience that you have. It might be something that you've learned that for the first time you want to open up and share with your spouse, or for the first time you've had this epiphany and you want to share it with one of your children, right? But the idea that we are taking off the mask that we might be wearing on a day-to-day basis and vulnerably exposing the inner workings of ourselves can be a place that is really uncomfortable. And for me, I feel uncomfortable, but I feel called at the same time. And that's a really conflicting place to be because, again, I feel like the story of this journey and what we have been through as a family unit, and for me, myself, as a woman, as a mother, as a wife, the experience that I went through just felt like it had to be shared. And now I come to this space being open all the time. And sometimes, if I'm being really honest, I feel like it makes me look like the weak link in this podcast, meaning like I'm so exposed. And sometimes I feel like vulnerability can be perceived as weakness. But when I get on these episodes, or when I am working with a client, or when I'm sharing with a friend, the fear falls away. And I just become open to whatever it is that I'm meant to share. And sometimes it can be really deep and exposing. But I know from the messages that we receive and from the feedback that we get that it's doing something for someone. And so I'm going to keep doing it, even though it can be really uncomfortable.
So much you said there, Stacey, resonates. And the first thing is, I actually, and I said this to you all the time, I feel that your vulnerability is one of your superpowers. It's, I'm in awe of how much you share and how natural it is for you to be vulnerable and share from a deep perspective. I don't feel like I hold back in this podcast. I feel like it's, but I still don't feel like I share with the vulnerability you do. So I actually, yeah, that's why I feel like people like us, right? Is there's a connection, there's a yin and yang, there's the way we work together, where your vulnerability and I channel knowledge from somewhere wherever. I never say it's mine; it comes from a different place, and that's where I feel this connection, this partnership really works. Is because the yin and yang and the connection, and so but yeah, I'm in awe of your vulnerability and your ability to kind of go deep into who you are. I think it's really cool. And it's interesting you talked about what your family went through, and kind of the whole journey and how it defines us, right? And that's the thing about being seen is our early life, kind of what we went through as a child, and, kind of everything we experienced while we were young kind of defines us, right? And it's like, I feel like when we're born and when we're babies, we're natural. We're natural at being seen, at just being. We cry, we get attention. No complicated programming, this is what we went through as a child. Our parents did this. There's none of that. So I feel like we're trying to go full circle to be present in the moment, just like we when we were born. But everything we've been through in this life does impact us, right? My example, it's just interesting. I at 3 years old, I was a refugee from Uganda and came into the UK, and I was one of nine. I got one younger sister. Everyone else is older, so I didn't have a voice. We were just trying to survive in a new country. Everyone's trying to figure out the language, figure out whatever they're trying to do, schools, work, or whatever. And and it's just interesting that I really, in this life and this time now, I feel like my voice is my gift, and that's the journey we go on. Is everything we're experiencing as a child, everything we've been through, is part of our soul contract. Is part of what we're here to. But understanding and unweaving your soul contracts and understanding why you're here is all part of it. Because when we're born, we have the veil of amnesia, so we don't know the soul contracts. If we know we were here to experience deep pain, we might not experience it. This is where the veil comes in. But I feel like as we grow, as we get older, the veil becomes thinner and thinner. And this is what's happening right now: is the veil is probably the thinner it has been, which is why so much is coming up. So recognizing that what you've been through, and Stacey talked about what your family went through 6 years ago, that uncovering your deep soul lessons is part of the journey we're on. And that's why, what if everything you've been through you're meant to use, and what if that just helps one person? Because when you talk about programming, sure, your upbringing, your inner child, and your inner child is so much more than just what you experienced as a child, but what you experience, the child is father to the man. It does define a lot of what you like. So, but when you start unraveling the soul contracts, what you asked for, this is why I said we're here to do three things. Once you start understanding the karma you're here to release, once you start understanding what your soul wants to experience, and you start to understand the soul contracts, that's where your awareness increases of who you are. And what if you meant to use your experience like Stacey did, right? She talked about the trauma of what her family went through 6 years ago, and she's written a book about it. It's like, and it's such an inspiring read. So, it's turning that pain into purpose. And what does it mean? And being seen. I feel like we've just entered it. We just finished a phase, or we're finishing a phase of going through completion where we needed to be isolated. We needed to be in that what felt like a lonely, to really truly to go through some shifts. But now I feel like we're entering into a phase where we're not meant to do it alone. It feels like it needs to be a co-creation. And then the other level of programming that we're working against is everything we went through from childhood, right? In terms of careers, in terms of culture, in terms of religion. There's so many layers to unravel. And what if being seen, speaking your truth, writing a book, starting a podcast, whatever it may be, or even just, talking and being vulnerable and being honest with one person, what if that's also part of your healing? And there is a fear there, right? Fear of being judged, fear of being misunderstood. And it's a natural human trait. But it's like, what is courage? Courage is having a fear and doing it anyway. So in this moment, why don't you just take a moment to ask yourself, what are you holding on to? What does being seen mean to you? Does it bring up fear? What does speaking your truth mean to you? Do you feel like you're going to be judged? Do you feel like, and if there is fear there, does it come from your childhood? Does it come from your religion? Does it come from your culture? Is it yours? Is it your parents? Once we start changing the question, things start to really evolve and really kind of, I realizing more and more, actually, starting this podcast has been great training. Stacey talked about it, right? Her vulnerability and, kind of everything that came from it. It's just, for me, I realize it's been such a beautiful opportunity. And this is what I mean. If you're thinking of starting something, if you feel you want to start something like a podcast, like speak more on social media, what is being seen? I would 100% encourage you to start something, because it's not about being perfect. I mean, any regular listener to this podcast knows that this podcast isn't perfect. I don't say it's perfect. I don't want it to be perfect. That's why I don't edit anything. That's why I don't script anything. That's why, even any guest that comes on, nothing scripted, nothing edited. And that's the rawness of what being seen and what speaking your truth looks like. So, Stacey, going back to you, how much do you feel your childhood and your kind of programming has influenced your journey of being seen and being heard?
So it's interesting. I don't feel like I was necessarily stifled as a child, but there was definitely an expectation of performing in a certain way. So I was allowed to use my voice, but it had to be within certain parameters, I guess. So I've never really felt uncomfortable with sharing my voice. I guess I just didn't expect to be doing it on the platform that I am, right? Like I was comfortable with sharing with those that I'm close with, like this is about me and this is what, those kind of things. But I think sharing publicly is very different, because you're putting yourself out there to people that you don't know, and you're opening yourself up for whatever judgment comes with that. And I think some of us can feel that way about the people that we're closest to, right? That it's hard to open up to them because we fear rejection, or we fear losing them in some type of way, or letting them down, right? Like if our thoughts don't align with theirs, we might feel like love is conditional, and that can be a scary place to be. But for me, I think that as long as I performed a certain way as a child, I was allowed to speak. And so I learned early on, like, to be a certain way. And when everything happened with my son, Dylan, I recognized that if anybody had the impression that I was this perfect mom or we were this perfect family, that was being shattered very publicly. And as that was being shattered, I recognized that all I had was my truth. That's all I had. And there were so many rumors through the community, and so many people speculating that they knew what was happening. And I just wanted, if people were going to talk, I wanted them to at least know the truth. And I felt a huge responsibility to put that out there. And I did that through my book. And I think that's the most exposed and vulnerable I've ever been, is in that book. Sharing the inner workings of such private moments between me and my son in the hospital. Talking about my shortcomings as a mom, as a wife. I've never felt more exposed. The beautiful thing about it is I've also had people coming to me and saying how much it's touched them to read the book and to hear the story. And maybe it's helped them navigate through something challenging that they're facing. And so when I get that feedback, it drives me more, because I recognize that even if it's just a small handful of people, somewhere in the world, someone needs my truth in order to work through their own. And what a powerful thing to think that we can have that kind of impact on one another if we just speak our truth. If we're just open enough to say, this is who I am and this is what I've been through. Think about who you might be helping along the way. You just never know what people are going through behind closed doors because we put these walls up about how we think we're supposed to be. And yet, who are we really serving with those walls? When we are open and raw and tender about who we are and what we've experienced, we have the opportunity to touch another person's heart and to potentially guide them through our experiences. It's like we're laying down roadmaps for one another. And I can't think of a better way to serve than to just show up and be yourself.
I love it. And it's so true. I mean, I have to believe that, you know, this lifetime, all the extremities of what we've been through, and I feel like everybody's been through so much. I feel the purpose is multifaceted. Like I've already said, it's what your soul's here to experience, karma. But I also feel that we can't have been through all these deep experiences unless there's a reason for it. And yes, it's our soul contracts, and yes, it's kind of what we. But I also feel that I do feel everything we've learned is meant to guide others, which is, you know, hence the spiritual mentorship program and kind of everything, you know, kind of everything we do with Akashic Records and membership, and it's because it is a calling. But, you know, the spiritual journey and kind of releasing the layers and truly becoming our authentic selves. I really do feel it's the journey we're on, right? To truly understand who we are. It's building a connection with us at a soul level. And when you connect to you at a soul level, you start to understand yourself at such a deeper level. Do you ever truly overcome the fears of being seen and, you know, nervousness around about speaking? And I feel it gets less. You know, I feel like I'm more comfortable on talking on this podcast and the rest of it. But there's always an element of, you know, people are going to listen, are they going to, you know, they're going to resonate, and, you know, and then it's just, but this spiritual journey, this awakening that we're going through, this shift we're going through is really powerful. Because I feel like he's teaching us so much. You know, just look at the journey you've been on and look at the most painful things you've been through and ask yourself, what did I learn from that? How did I expand? What can I take from that deep experience that I meant to guide others on? You know, it's like in soul contracts and the things that the people you've contracted in this world are also part of it. And I love this, the journey where our guides, the universe, gives us mirrors, brings up with things in us where we don't always see. And how do they do that? They bring up with our experiences with other people that come into the world. And it's just, I'll always talk about, I feel like, you know, we're like the superhero, the Disney character that's in the middle, and everybody in our world is playing the roles that we ask them to play. So when you start to understand your deeper journey and, you know, kind of, and you start to share it, people resonate. And, you know, everybody's journey is unique. My journey to finding my voice is and shining my light is different to Stacey's, right? It's different. I mean, you know, when we met and we connected at a soul level, we couldn't have been more opposite. You know, there's this, you know, Indian guy that lives in London, born in Uganda, and, you know, there's Stacey who lives in the rural US and, you know, kind of hairdresser, and both had our parts and both, you know, went on this spiritual journey, and humanly we're very different, but at a soul level we connect. That's what a soul contract looks like. You know, anyone that reaches out to us and, you know, does mentorship or whatever, it's a soul contract. We were meant to hold your space and while you go through a shift. So this is why I always say, if our voices resonate, then reach out. Because I do feel like we have to go through this journey. There's certain things that we need to experience that are painful, that are expanding us, that are teaching us something. But I do feel the universe supports us by sending us the right people at the right time if we're open to it. But it's like if we get stuck in our story, then we may not see the people the universe is sending us. This is why, you know, kind of shining your light, speaking your truth, whatever that looks like. And it may not be starting a podcast. It may not be, you know, being on social media, writing a book. But ask yourself, why have you been through so much? Why is it so deep? And what are you meant to do with everything you've learned? And what if what you've been through, you're meant to share? And what if it just helps one person? There is a link between visibility and self-worth. There is a link to being seen. And it's like when we hide away, there is a part of us that we're still not happy with. That is, that and requires work. And the reality is that healing is a lifetime journey. Anyone that says they're fully healed, I was kind of smile because I feel like the universe will teach you, have its own way of teaching you that we have so much to release in this lifetime, and it's not about completing it. I feel like when I've learned everything I'm meant to, this is when I leave this realm. So, but it's about we're a soul having a human experience, so being present and having the human experience and not waiting. When we've been through something traumatic, and Stacey talked about it, it's natural to shrink back. Our human, the way we created is, when we're attacked, or when we feel like we're being attacked, we either attack back or we shrink back. It's a reaction. And it's, wanting to stay safe and wanting to not. But I feel like the time now is we've been pushed to be seen. We've been pushed to truly stand out and then come out from our shell. As Stacey said, she was in a cocoon. I feel like we're all been in this cocoon for a few years now. And it's like now, which is why this topic feels so important. It's time to speak your truth, to be authentic, and it's healing for you. Make it about you, not the other person. Yes, you can have intention of just helping one person. I'll always say my purpose is anyone I connect with, I want to leave them better than I found them. And doing something like this podcast means that someone's going to listen to it. At least one person will listen to it every day, and some way I would have helped them. So that's my purpose done for the day. If I decide I don't want to do anything that day, then that's okay. But if I decide I want to help millions of people that day, that's okay too. But being gentle with yourself, but realizing that you're here for a purpose and you need it, you want it, is really important. It's like if you're listening to this and saying, well, they're not talking about me because, I've still got work to do and I really want to hide, then actually we're probably talking to you more than others. Maybe it's time for you not to shrink and dim your light. Maybe you're healing, you're truly, your soul will blossom once you start to be seen. Look for communities, look for spaces where you can speak your truth. Sure, look for mentors. If we resonate, 100% reach out. But look for your space, look for your community. I feel like we're entering into a phase where we need to look at our soul family. And our soul family, yes, it's also in the other realms, but it's in this human realm. Who in your world allows you to be uniquely you? Who in your world allows you to share your truth? Or do you have people around you that you have to dim your light? Then they're the wrong people. Speaking your truth and shining your light, you also need that support. You need the support of a community. It's a co-creation. Who can you partner with? Taking out and asking for help is a strength. Stepping out of your comfort zone is a strength. Building that community is a strength. And being vulnerable. I mean, Stacey's an expert at it. So, Stacey, what would your advice be to somebody who maybe is accepting they want to be seen, but is really struggling with the anxiety that goes with it?
I would say I can feel your pain. I know. I mean, I know how hard it is. I know the struggle so real. I can absolutely feel it. And every time we get ready to record, especially if it's an episode that, I know is going to invoke emotion in me, I feel even more exposed and I get nervous and anxious. But I think it's a question of, feeling the fear, and do you do it anyway? Right? Like I think that fear is going to be a normal part of something new. Whether you're, like I said, sharing with a family member intimately something about you, or you're sharing on a platform like a podcast or some other public platform. I think no matter what the circumstances are, if it's something new, you're going to feel the fear. And I still feel it before every episode. I absolutely think to myself, okay, what's going to come up this time? And, I kind of chuckle to myself and then try to push through it. But I believe when we feel called to do something, the calling overrides our ego's desire to stay safe. I really feel like when we know that we are meant to share something, we need to honor that and not shy away from it, even if we're scared, even if it's hard. There's something in that moment that drives us and says, it is more important for me to share my truth than it is for me to stay in my comfort zone. And so I would tell that person who's feeling fear to sit with it and really dial in and see, and this might be a good journal prompt, see, okay, is this my ego trying to shut me up? And is my soul trying to speak? Because I think there's a big difference, right? When our ego's getting loud and saying, hey, like I want to be on display for the world to see. There's a very different vibration to that than there is to your soul speaking and saying, I have an impression that I need to make on this space and this time. I was just sitting here thinking about using our voices like we do, and the fact that I'm going to guess my kids have probably never listened to an episode of this podcast because they wouldn't want to listen to their mom. But how beautiful is it that there's a legacy left for my family long after I leave this earth? The fact that they'll have a way to tap into some of the things that I thought and felt and believed in through this podcast. To me, I just had this overwhelming feeling of joy, knowing that I'm leaving an imprint of my truth somewhere for my kids to have. It's like this podcast is like an imprint of my life. I've shared so much with all of you in this space. And I know if you're a regular listener, you're here because Nimesh and I speaking our truth has impacted you in some way. And if you feel that feeling about me and Nimesh, imagine what the world would feel about you sharing your truth and really allowing the people around you to get to know the inner workings of who you are and why you are the way you are. Think about how beautiful it could be. So the flip side to this is if you can get past the fear, there's a beauty in showing up as the truest version of you and allowing the gift of that opportunity to the people that are in your life. I just believe that there's a greater payoff that trumps the fear.
Yeah, so true. It's that it's everything inside us does serve us, right? It's like ego gets a bad name, where ego is just trying to protect us. The fear that comes up that's serving us too, right? It's that what's courage is having fear and doing it anyway. So it's not about pushing that down. It's about shining your light in spite of your nervousness, in spite of your kind of fears of. It's trusting in your journey, trusting in what's inside of you, and doing it anyway. It's like, for example, when I started this podcast, it was like I got the message that my voice is my gift probably in like May time, and for a while I was like, do I have the right software? Do I have the right mic? Do I have all this? And it's just like I was procrastinating because I'm like, well, who's going to hear me? Who's going to want to hear me? And it's just I would just encourage you to do it anyway. There's no right and there's no wrong. I would just, what does being seen, being heard mean to you? what does shine your light? It's not about fixing anything. It's not about fixing others. It's about shining your light in a way that it feels right. It feels authentic. We spend so much time in our heads thinking about what we should be doing. When what if in a moment we could just sit with our heart and just ask, what's in our highest? Does this make sense? Just put your hand on your heart and, okay, I want to be seen more. I want to shine my light. What does that look like? When even asking, should I write a book? Should I start a podcast? Should I join this community? Start looking and feeling inside rather than looking outside. It's such a powerful thing to do. And I'm sure there's a lot of people listening saying, I'm not ready to be seen. I'm not ready to be heard. And there is a divine timing to it too, right? But I guess I'd ask, what's the one thing you could do today? Forget about the long term. It's like sometimes we procrastinate because like we're not sure about the long term. You know what? Long term, I want to start a podcast, but I'm not ready yet. I've still got to do whatever. But what if you could ask yourself, what's the one thing that you could do today? What's the one thing you could start really quickly that allows you to speak your truth? Because the other thing I feel like we've been called to do is merge worlds. I love the phrase, how we do one thing is how we do everything. And what I mean by that is, of course, you're going to be different when you're at work than when you're at home, but are your values consistent? Are you the same energetically? Is your intention the same? Of course, kind of what you do on depending on the role is going to be different, but it's your light. And I honestly feel like we're all being called right now to shine our light, to this phase we're in right now feels really intense, and I feel like what the universe is doing is closing out cycles, but they're so quickly. So light's being shone on the things that you're holding on to. So what if today, and you listen to this, is your message to do something different? If you feel vulnerable, then that's great. Do it anyway. And it's like, again, this podcast is like, I was worried about who's going to listen, who isn't. I have no control over that. But I stepped out of my comfort zone and it's been amazing. So trust you, trust the voice inside you, trust just your ego is going to try and tell you to stop and stop. But if you could just listen to your intuition, and if we can help, reach out. We love what we get to do. So thank you. Stacey is always such a power, such a voice. Anything you want to say before we close up?
If you feel prompted to use your voice, there's a reason. Trust it, trust it, trust it. Thank you again for another powerful episode. Nims, I love this space with you. I'm so grateful that we get to do this every week together. I just think it's something so special, and I treasure our conversations.
Yeah, and it's healing for us too, right? It's a co-creation, and it's just like whatever we talk about, there's lessons we get to learn too. But just thank you to all our listeners for allowing us to share this space to guide you. And like I said, if your voice resonates, if you feel like you're ready for mentorship, if you feel like you're ready for an Akashic record reading, a book in a 30-minute reading with Stace, we do a beautiful joint Akashic. My membership feels like the right thing to do. Everything's available on our websites. It's our names. So Stacey-Brown or Nimesh-Radio. I'll include the links in the show notes. Reach out. We love to hear from you. We love getting the DMs. We love people booking discovery calls and really kind of allowing us to connect. This is what we're here to do. So sending out so much love and light out to everybody. Stay sending you so much love. Thank you for this space. And bye for now.